A state of emergency declarations are sparking millions of people to stockpile and prepare for very uncertain and high risk times that lie ahead. Certain states are loading up on medication while certain countries stock up on personal protection. Scary gas pipeline explosions from what reports are calling lightning are also prompting awareness and the need to stock up now. Early morning gas fire erupts at North Mississippi Natural Gas Facility. Alcorn County Emergency Management said it took 4 hours for the fire to die down to the point that they could extinguish it. A massive gas fire at a North Mississippi natural gas facility prompted county-wide response after what was believed to be a lightning strike early Friday morning. You may have seen this breaking news actually unfolding as my wife and I, Squirrel Tribe, were recording a video, and she brought that information and showed it on screen, and she actually posted more information about it on a full video yesterday. It says that according to Alcorn County, Mississippi Emergency Services Director Ricky Gibbons, the fire at the Trans-Canada Energy gas compressor in Corinth, Mississippi, erupted after what is presumed to be a lightning strike to a vertical gas pipe. So there's no confirmation that this was in fact a lightning strike. This is a presumption. The strike released gas which sparked and caught fire. The Farmington Fire Department, Alcorn County Sheriff's Office, and workers with Trans-Canada Energy all responded to the blaze, immediately shutting off valves to the pipe, which likely prevented an explosion. And the fire burned for 4 hours until the pressure died down enough for firefighters to knock down the flames. According to this report here from ABC 24, no one was injured in the blaze, and that is a good thing to hear. Now, the exact situation is something that firefighters train for at the gas compressor facility, which lies along the 3,340-mile-long Columbia Gulf transmission pipeline, connecting every major pipeline in the U.S. Gulf Coast and to additional Midwestern lines. And also, the rain falling at the time likely prevented the spread of the fire to the surrounding area. So again, these are all pros in what could have been a terribly devastating and dangerous situation. Trans-Canada Energy released the following statement. Columbia Gulf Transmission LLC, CGT, promptly activated its emergency response procedures to address a fire at its Corinth compressor station in Mississippi, resulting from a suspected lightning strike during severe storms occurring early on April 28, 2023. No one was injured in the incident, and the fire has now been extinguished. We appreciate the support and prompt collaboration from local fire and emergency personnel. To maintain the safety and reliability of the system, we have isolated the Corinth compressor station and have notified customers of a force majeure event. Very important, folks, force majeure. CGT is in the process of making operational adjustments to allow a portion of volume to resume safely flowing through the impacted segment of the system. While we continue to assess the impacts, we expect them to be minimal and short in duration. We will continue to provide updates directly to impacted customers and stakeholders. So I will ask you guys, if you are potentially an impacted customer or stakeholder, please reach out, contact me, let me know what type of correspondence you receive, what type of warning, heads up update, or potential price increase announcement as TC Energy, according to Reuters, declares force majeure on Columbia Gulf Nat Gas Station after fire. This is very important. This is very serious because a force majeure could potentially mean almost anything. But more importantly, it could mean higher prices, increased energy costs, and an expectation of larger payments to be processed by natural gas customers as a result of this pipeline lightning strike fire near explosion. So when we discuss transactions and higher amounts of transactions and what this could mean in the future, we also need to think about just that, the future of transactions. where stablecoins and CBDCs might play a meaningful role in payments, according to Visa's former CEO. Visa has begun working on a blockchain interoperability project in September of 2021 to support CBDC and stablecoin adoption. So they have been working on this for quite some time. The chief executive of credit card giant Visa remained confident that blockchain-powered solutions can be integrated into its services and offerings to power the next generation of payments. And Visa's outgoing CEO, Al Kelly, shared the firm's plans for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and private stablecoins. And I quote, It's very early days, but we continue to believe that stablecoins and central bank digital currencies have the potential to play a meaningful role in the payments space, and we have a number of initiatives underway," end quote. Now, Visa's research team began working on a blockchain interoperability project in September of 21, named the Universal Payment Channel (UPC) initiative. The project was designed to establish a network of networks for CBDCs and private stablecoins to pass through various payment channels. Fast forward to today, and we can see how the FedNow system could potentially be one, or if not the one, channel. More recently, the payment giant announced on December 20 that it was chalking up a plan to allow automated bills to be paid out from a user's Ethereum-powered wallet. So, for those who've been asking questions about how will payments be made in the future after CBDC is rolled out, let's take a hint from Visa themselves and how this could be accomplished in the future. And maybe even view this as a simple guide to understanding CBDCs. Whereas today, fewer people are carrying cash, and even less now have actual physical wallets. We're paying with cards and digital wallets, Google Pay, Apple Pay, linking your cards, or even getting a virtual card from your card issuer to your device, using hand scanners and palm prints. The list goes on and on. As the world is becoming more digital, central banks are investigating and, in a few cases, already launching or testing their own digital versions of paper money called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. And one reason why countries are increasingly interested in issuing their own digital money, well, let's just think. In most cases, these digital currencies are designed to be used the same way as cash, to buy and sell goods and services, and like cash, they are backed by the central bank. CBDCs, slightly different format, but at the end of the day, it's still a mental construct. Now, granted, some, including the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they are looking to back theirs with gold, physical gold assets, hard assets. But at the end of the day, it's backed by belief. CBDCs have the potential to help modernize payments and bring more people into the digital economy, or so they say. Now, in a world that is always on, some central banks still rely on outdated technology that doesn't allow for 24/7 payment processing. Some countries are upgrading their banking infrastructure to allow for real-time payments, but CBDCs are another way to modernize payment infrastructure, allowing for faster transactions during more times of the day. Remember, folks, it's all about money. Not saying it is for you, but for them, it is. And they want to be able to have access to it 24/7, 365, and almost instantaneously. That is, having access to extracting that money out of the consumer. CBDCs also offer a way to cut down on the inefficiencies of printing and moving money. The cost of managing physical cash can be as much as 1.5% of a country's GDP. As connectivity increases and smartphones proliferate, sorry about that, CBDCs could also be a way to include more people in the digital economy who are currently shut off from basic financial services, which sounds like a great idea, sounds like a real win. But what happens when the power goes out, when the internet is disconnected, when there's a breach on a firewall or a server, a network outage, or maybe even a cyber attack or worse, EMP? The real question is, how quickly will CBDCs take off? And the short answer, next year, 2024. Central banks are actively exploring CBDCs in some form, and the central banks of countries representing a fifth of the world's population say they are likely to issue a CBDC in the next few months. It is important to note that CBDC development efforts across the globe are motivated by different policy goals, such as enhancing financial inclusion, improving the efficiency of domestic payment systems, or the role of central bank money in an increasingly digital world, or pulling away from the dollar, pulling away from the petrodollar, regaining or capturing and taking over control. Depends on who you ask. Will CBDCs replace paper currency? Well, here's an unpopular opinion. Conceivably, they could, but it's unlikely, according to some. After all, bartering continues to exist thousands of years after the introduction of physical currency. Though digital transactions have been on the rise and the shift of touch-free transactions has accelerated during the pandemic, cash remains the most popular means of exchange around the world, especially in developing markets. However, we have heard from central bank presidents that potentially using cash could eventually land you into a gray market area that may not necessarily be a good thing. For example, 96% of total transactions in Indonesia are in cash. Most central banks have said that they are committed to issuing and distributing physical cash as long as there is demand for it. I think that's the key, folks, as long as there's demand for it. But as we started this conversation, we started off with the simple fact that less people are carrying cash, less people are carrying wallets. We are rapidly emerging and evolving into a digital age. So with the idea of CBDCs replacing paper currency being unlikely, unless there is little demand for it, I think we're making our bed. Okay, we're making our bed to lay in it, basically. Simplicity, ease, speed of transactions, we are asking for this. But just as cards, real-time payments, and more recently digital wallets have offered people more choices and security, some would want you to believe that CBDCs could do the same, if not better. Now, how would paying with CBDC actually work? The designs of CBDCs vary, but one made to fit the current payment infrastructure like FedNow and ISO 20022 would work a lot like a mobile wallet. A central bank could issue the digital money to financial institutions for distribution or even directly to your digital wallet, just like direct deposit of a government social benefit or stimulus payment. You could then pay at checkout much the same way you do today with a phone. And how would that actually be made possible, as we are all not linked to FedNow? Not yet. At least not till July. Well, MasterCard says that central banks have accelerated their exploration of digital currencies with a variety of objectives, from fostering financial inclusion to modernizing the payment ecosystem. So what better way to get this initiative rolled out, this new CBDC mandate underway, than by collaborating with payment processors? MasterCard, 90% of central banks are engaged in some form of CBDC work. As you consider central bank digital currencies or CBDCs, MasterCard is eager to help explore, test, deploy, and secure these new currencies. They are working with them. They are leading the charge, or at least assisting in leading the charge. We are committed to working with central banks to support payment in CBDCs on our network. This may be a tough battle, folks. This may be an uphill climb. MasterCard, along with Visa, quite possibly American Express, Discover, other payment processing merchants, Square, PayPal, all could be working together to build out this infrastructure for this new FedNow ISO 20022 central bank digital currency network, which would then, according to MasterCard statements, make payments with CBDCs easier, and making a payment should be simple, whether it's in person or remote, online or offline, home or abroad. Our CBDC card solutions enable end users to spend their CBDC easily at any of the 90 plus million merchants globally. Central bank digital currencies are in the works. Depending on who you have this conversation with and who you ask the questions and how they answer, would lead you to believe that everything's going to be fine. Sunshine and rainbows. Better than ever before. Faster, more inclusion, allowing greater access to financial institution and banking than ever before. For many of who never had the ability, but I would say in an almost 100% digital world of currency, I know that we aren't in a 100% digital world of society. Therefore, inherently, some people are going to be effectively held out. They're going to be, outcasts. They're going to be ostracized from CBDCs and or either forced into technology and tracking and tracing in order to have the means of conducting transactions and doing business, whatever it may be. As well, other arguments and statements, objections, risks associated with surveillance. And, here in the U.S., the breach and overreach and intrusion of U.S. government and Overwatch, Big Brother, monitoring every transaction while also having the ability to control the economy in greater ways without even having to negotiate with business owners. For instance, 2022, we had a wave of rapidly increasing gas prices where even at one point in time, President Biden himself reached out to ExxonMobil, BP, some of these Chevron, these huge petroleum-based companies for which he is actively working to put out of business with his green initiative, his Green Deal, and approached them and demanded that they lower their prices to help the U.S. consumer, help the American citizens. Admirable, in a sense. However, the government interfering in private business, that can't be good. And the problem is, if you give them an inch, they take a mile. And ultimately, what that could mean in the future, all hypothetical scenarios, but hear me out. Comment down below. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Any input would be greatly appreciated. But instead of demanding that these companies reduce their profits, lower their prices, the government would then have control over whether or not we could even buy their products, therefore choking them out by forcing us to some other, maybe government-backed, subsidized, petroleum-based, or more than likely electrical grid EV charging station. And they can control the markets. They can control the economy from behind a computer, dictating when, where, how people can spend, engage and interact, stimulate the economy, and or what businesses may survive or ultimately face total collapse. Before we get into the topic of conversation and discussion of negative interest rates, which would ultimately make your savings disappear little by little, which, granted, it does that now in the form of inflation when you go spend. But instead of taking your money out of savings, going to a grocery store or wherever you need to go to spend money, and realizing that you're getting less product, less value for your dollars, instead, prices could remain the same. Inflation would take on a whole new meaning and definition, much like I told you guys about how the meaning and definition of affordability will be forever changed. However, prices could remain the same, but if your savings account balance slowly starts disappearing, then that's a form of inflation, a form of negative interest rates, where your money in savings, if not used quickly, rapidly, and at a high tax rate, will ultimately go away. Use it or lose it, as well as possible expiration dates, restrictions, and a variety of other changes to how you and I could manage our money in the future that we have never seen before, ultimately at the control of the government, and not private banks, but one central bank at any given point in time. Oh, and by the way, you can never own, hold, secure, cash out, withdraw your CBDC because it always stays on the exchange, which you guys know I'm not a huge fan of leaving anything on the exchange. Therefore, you never own it. You can only use it. You can only borrow it. The central bank would forever have control. You couldn't extract it. You couldn't store it on your own cold storage digital wallet. It would forever be in their control. They would allow you to use it or allow you not to use it. I'm not saying that this is the beginning of communism or a socialist society, but it definitely doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy on the inside when I look at it from this perspective. When we have lawmakers, politicians, legislation fighting against it for the very same reasons, I think it's worth having the conversation, you know? But at the same time, odds are we may not necessarily have much control over what's going to happen. So it is important that we pay attention to what is happening and become more educated, more knowledgeable, plan and prepare moving forward. I would say that when the time comes, I would much rather be heavier in assets, in physical assets, cash flow producing assets, than in actual physical cash, dollars, US dollars, paper money. I would definitely be leveraging credit cards as always for ease, simplicity, rewards, security, but also using their credit, using their funds, so to speak, instead of my own. That way, I don't need to be heavy in cash, which is crazy to believe, but I believe Charlie Munger is sitting on some $88 million in cash right now. But I don't want to be heavy in cash because at any given time, that cash could literally change overnight and not be what it quite once used to be, if that makes sense. I hope this information is helpful to you all. If you got any questions, feel free to drop them down below. Follow me on Instagram. Check out all my links on Instagram. Hit me up on my website, kevin247.news. And until next time, you guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you real soon.